1973 case 1370 factory open station. The fenders are different than a 1070 or 970 or any of that because I measured them. Their bolts are in different places. This tractor, we painted it up last year and started doing lights wiring and stuff like that. We got everything adjusted. Everything was running good. Good oil pressure, good temperature. All the gauges were doing exactly what they should have been doing. It was making good boost. Drove it over to another point on our farm with a building over there to put it away. No problems. Drove it back this spring with a 4-row corn planter behind it. Not exactly like we're dragging, half the county or anything for a monster like this especially. And on its way back, had a funny little tick about a mile into the couple-mile journey home. Well, Dad thought, well, that's kind of odd, but maybe it's just something, fans hitting or something, or it was pretty cool that day, so maybe it's just warming back up or something. Not a big deal. Had good oil pressure, had good temperature. Boost wasn't like all the way. Boost was running where it should have been. Get another mile into the journey. Pretty much the noise you just heard. It's had a head gasket put in it since we bought it. Heads look good. It's had new exhaust manifold. Changed the intake manifold because it had a broken flange on the intake, so it didn't stay on real good. It's had a turbo put on it since we bought it. I mean, nothing major done to it, so we're kind of like, what exactly happened there? Theories: either 1, dropped a valve, 2, broken valve or broken valve seat, or it just the valve seat just completely left and is banging around in there. Or my dad's newest theory is possibly an overfueling issue where an injector could have dropped a tip and the tip's bouncing around in there and it's just hosing fuel into one of the cylinders because it kind of has a dead knock to it and it's smoking really, really bad like you saw. So could be a number of things. Stay tuned as we dissect this and try to figure out what went wrong and work on fixing it. So rocker covers are off. Push rods don't appear to be bent on any of them. All the valves are still there. Springs are still there. Keepers are still there. Oil's kind of dark. Smells like blow-by. Regular diesel engine things. So my dad's next analysis is, well, let's pull injectors. Send them up to Weimer's, the local fuel injection place. Have them test them. See if one of them has a screwed up tip on it and it's just dumping fuel in or not spraying it right and it's not going to burn or what's going on. And then if we get nothing out of that, we're going to pull heads and pull the pan, and that'll be big problems if we get to that point. But his new thing is thinking it's injectors, so we're going to go with that now that we've proven that valve train is not the problem. And then I suppose when we pull heads, we could check if it's valve seats too, which could be a problem still. So we're going to keep going with that. So we went and got our injectors tested up at Weimer Fuel Injection, which is the local injection shop. They're like 2 miles down the road. They said 2 injectors look pretty good. 3 injectors were, they were all right. They weren't great. And 1 injector had a cracked body in it. So what the guy was basically saying with that was it might cause the problem that we're having, but probably not. But it could cause it to stick open if it got hot, or the crack open up more when it got hot. So that could be not helping the problem anyway. So if it was already running rough on 1 cylinder for whatever reason, that definitely wouldn't help. So it's got a set of 6 new injectors in it. And the other ones we could always put in something else that we're not sure or we know has a really bad injector, but those ones are definitely better than not working injectors, so hanging on to those. New injectors in this, fuel lines hooked back up. I'm going to throw rocker covers back on. When Dad gets back from testing corn moisture, we'll see about getting it running probably, and hopefully it stops doing its knocky knock, clacky clack noise. I guess we'll see. Well, bad news. It's still knocking. No change at all from putting new injectors in it. We went from having a set of $20 or $30 a piece Chinese injectors to a set of better Chinese injectors, which for all 6 was about $600. And it's still doing it. And those injectors are brand new. There's nothing wrong with them. So we get to tear it down now. So tonight's project for me, all the manifolds out of it, coolant out of it, rocker covers off it again. Sadly, to drop the pan, you have to take the front axle off. So that's not a today thing. But tonight we're gonna get the manifolds off and get ready to pull the heads, because that'll be the next thing, is looking at valve seats, or see if we got a broken valve that the top's still there but the bottom's gone. But I don't think that's gonna be the issue. But I'm betting on bad valve seat now as to what's going on. So what I've done so far is I got the air cleaner assembly off, breather off, which is stuff we've had off before. The thing I did not have off before was this elbow here. And if you look down in there, there's a lot of oil residue. I noticed it in the hose clamps and it's like, oh, yeah, maybe there's a little oil leak, or maybe we put a little oil on it because one of them is sticky. Occasionally we'll use a used hose clamp on something. Or if we were putting it back together from getting the head gasket done on it years ago, you know, a slightly used hose clamp isn't a big deal for most things. That's not just oil from a sticky used hose clamp. That's a little something else going on in there. And that kind of oil in the turbo is not good. So either it did what the last turbo did that we had, that was a cheap Chinese turbo that we are no longer buying because we thought they might be okay, compared to a $1,500 Borg Warner or Garrett or and the other ones. Bearing went out in here after like 10 hours on the last Chinese turbo we bought. So I don't remember which turbo this is, whether it's a good one or a crappy one. So bearing could have gone in here or started to go. The last time when the bulldozer did that though, it didn't knock like that. It just smoked and had no power. It says it was making boost though. Or we could have something else terribly wrong that's getting us oil back in our intake, which is very bad. I did not look on this side of the turbo yet. It doesn't look bad. It's clean. It spins. Doesn't seem like the bearing's out of it. I can't spin it from there. Spins good. It's not hitting the housing, so that's not the problem. Guess we'll tear into it a little further and see what else we can find going on here. The goal tonight is to get intake and exhaust manifolds off for sure, and I'm going to try to drain the coolant and get the water manifold off as well, so that when my dad gets back from his camping trip, he can help me pull the heads off it and stuff like that. So we'll see where this takes us. So more of what I've discovered. Number 6, sooty. Number 5, sooty. Number 4, sooty. Number 3, juicy. Number 2, sooty. Number 1, sooty. I'm betting 3 is the problem. I'm going to go pull the intake off and see if it's the same thing. We're getting oil in there. And we'll diagnose it from that and try to follow that bunny hole and see where it goes from there. But I'm betting it's number 3, being that all the rest of these are just kind of carboned up and this one's like actively moist. I thought juice down here, that was some penetrating oil I sprayed on the bolts to try to take that turbo off, and then I decided, no, it's not worth fighting, and I'll just take the whole thing off in one shot, which wasn't terrible, but it was kind of heavy, and I thought it might slide apart, but it was just rusty enough that the sections of the manifold didn't slide apart, which is okay. The rest of those, yeah, they're a little bit more carbony than maybe they should be, but that one is damp, and you can see the valve in there is actually shiny, whereas in there, I don't know if you can see, it's all carboned up in all the rest of those. I can't really see them as well in these back ones. There's not as much light. But I'm betting number 3 is the problem. So, a little different than I expected here. A little bit dirty. A little dirty. 4. 4 is oily as heck. 3's, eh. 2, eh. 1's a little damp. But not bad. Huh. Quite interesting. I don't know. Have to dig deeper then. It's kind of hard to tell. Because if it was 3, I'd say it's definitely a 3 issue. But being it's 4 here and 3 there, I don't really know what's going on. So, cylinder 1, don't mind the antifreeze, it just leaked out of the head. You just have that. Nothing major going wrong in there. Other than there's a lot of coke built up on like every single cylinder in that top little bit. 2, not bad. Just carbony. We're going to skip 3 for a moment. 4, 5, 6, pretty much the same. Bunch of carbon built up at the top where the rings aren't scraping. And pistons look just dirty. Cylinder 3, badness. Watch this. We'll compare that to a cylinder next to it. It shouldn't go down more when you tap on it, and none of the other cylinders move. It shouldn't do that. Rod bearing's gone. And the shininess on the piston, I was thinking, oh, maybe there's a broken piece of ring, but if you look at the head, before we realized it was a rod bearing deletion, you look at the head, black, shiny, where the piston has been smacking the bottom of the head because it has an extra however much the rod bearing isn't anymore movement range in there. So that is very bad. Hopefully the crank's salvageable. If not, I don't know what this tractor holds, because we haven't proved the transmission yet, because we didn't get to run it long enough since we adjusted it in the field, because it did that. So we are going to pull the pan, but to pull the pan you have to pull the front axle, which is a lot of things to do underneath here. So we're going to roll it back a little bit so we got a little more room to work. Put the pallet jack up underneath there, put blocks and pallets on it. Take the tires off so then we can lower the axle down like 10 inches or so. Once we get it unbolted, then we can drop the pan and see what kind of carnage is going on down there. Dang it.
TBS. Notice how much it moves without moving anything else.
Once you get it over TDC, it's just going to fall.
Oh,
You break the ratchet again.
hold on. I'm gonna spin it again. You gotta get that part.
It's not moving!
You gotta get that part. You ready?
Yeah.
Started?
Yep. It didn't move. Oh, there it goes. Oh, it just went a really long way now.
Wait till I get over. Let me. Rodney Barrington has left the chat.
Decision has been made for multiple reasons. We didn't get the pan pulled, didn't get the front axle off. Why, you might ask? Because that's how you know what's wrong. Well, piston 3 moves up and down way more than it should, freely of all the other ones. Rod bearing is gone. Maybe main cap came loose, but probably got to be rod bearing. Piston 2 moves side to side. Something's goobered up in it beyond repair at this stage. We know the crank has to be goobered. There's no way it can't have something wrong with it. And it's not a motor you'd want to run a so-so crank in, because this motor has some stress on it. It's a high performance engine. It's not a Ford 8N that can run with 4 pounds of oil pressure for 20 years. And it's a lot of work to pull the front axle and drop the pan to see why what we know happened. Other things. We pulled the starter off of this to go on a new project we purchased. We'll go with that for the time being. That happens to have the same motor as this, but is a lot better, more sound attractor. And we were going to put that starter out of this on it, because the starter on it was full of water and inside parts were bad. Well, we pulled the starter off this, and the gear on the starter, it was chewed away very badly, and the ring gear on this motor is chewed up rather badly. Our 1175 needs this turbo. The new project we bought needs this fitting here and that elbow. And our 1270 needs these tires, because it has 23 134s on it. And the metric equivalents of those are like $700 a tire more than these BKT radials were, which were not cheap to begin with. So we're going to swap centers, rims, tires over to it. We're going to keep this though, because 1370 factory open station fenders and cowling, which is not on it right now. I think it's over here. Nope, it's not over there. It's somewhere else. Anyway, not easy to come by pieces. So we're going to hang on to this tractor until we find a donor tractor for a motor and maybe a transmission, because transmission was sketchy at best on this one. I'm going to put heads back on it. rocker covers back on it, bolt them down loosely, get a tarp over it, let it down off the cribbing. And she's going to get rolled outside, and some other projects are going to come in. Our newest project is going to need a motor rebuilt, but it's not running currently. But we're pretty sure we can get it running. That's tomorrow's project. So do be looking forward to that. But there are many other things that caused us to say, nope, you got to know when to quit. Because almost every hydraulic valve has been leaking, and we've taken them apart, cleaned them, put new seals in them, and they're still leaking. Or the starter being shot, it had blown head gaskets when we bought it, and now it's got other motor problems. The main pin in the front axle, it's settled a little bit now on the blocking, but shouldn't move like that. The steering's always sucked on it. And the 1270 with the same steering is, you can steer it with one finger, so something's definitely wrong with this. The top link screws stripped out upon putting anything behind it. We switched the top link to the 1270 because it's category 2 arms, and I think it is anyway. And it stripped both sides out. We stripped the first side out completely, welded it back on solid, stripped the other side out immediately after. So top link was worn out on it. Drawbar's been shortened on this one, I think. No, this one, it's the 1270 that's been shortened. But the holes, not circle anymore. These have a lot of play in them, so she's had a hard life. Guys, you got to know when to quit sometimes, and this sadly is one of those examples. So I'm going to get her buttoned back up, get her put back outside, and we'll wait for the right tractor to come along to breathe life back into this cool unit here. Thanks for watching, guys, if you made it this long. I know it's been kind of a long video, and it's been a long wait to get this apart, and then we decided not to take it apart the rest of the way. So if you like what you saw here, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you want to see more of. And be sure to stay tuned for our next big revival project. We've got a pretty cool one coming up here. Hopefully we'll have the video out in a week or two, but it depends on if we can get it running and driving and get it home first. Thanks for watching, guys. Have yourself a good one.